I've been on this earth a long time. I've seen a lot of things: fame, fortune, failure, heartbreak, miracles. I've been on stages in front of thousands, and I've been on my knees alone in the dark. But there's one thing I saw that, man, I'll never forget it. I remember standing there in a quiet little corner of the world, just watching a group of Muslims pray. Now listen, I didn't see folks pray before. I grew up in the church. I've seen pastors shout. I've seen people cry. I've seen hands lifted high, music playing, the whole room filled with fire and spirit. But this was different. There wasn't no music. There wasn't no lights, no crowd, no camera, no noise. Just a line of men side by side, shoulder to shoulder, like brothers in formation. And when the call to prayer came, man, it was like time stopped. And that voice echoed through the air, soft but powerful. You didn't have to understand the words to feel them. It wasn't just a call to prayer. It was a summons to peace. And I remember thinking, now hold on. What kind of devotion makes a man stop everything he's doing 5 times a day just to bow before his Lord? They faced one direction toward Makkah. All at once, like a heartbeat, they moved, hands folded, heads lowered, and then they went down to the ground, their foreheads touching the floor. And right there, that image burned itself into my mind. Because you don't see that kind of humility in this world no more. Not in a time where everybody's trying to stand taller than the next man. But here were grown men, powerful men, fathers, workers, leaders, putting their faces to the earth. Not because they were weak, but because they knew who they were bowing to. And I tell you, man, that right there changed something in me. At first, I didn't understand what was happening. No one was speaking English. I couldn't follow the words, but I could feel it. That peace, that surrender. The man beside me had his eyes closed, whispering something under his breath, tears just barely touching his cheek. And I thought, he's talking to God, like he knows him, like he sees him. I realized then Muslims don't just pray, they meet God 5 times a day, every day, whether they're rich or poor, happy or broken. They stop. They leave the world outside, wash up, and they step into presence. You ever seen a man wash his hands, his face, his feet? And you can tell it ain't just water. It's like he's cleaning off the world before he goes to talk to his creator. That's what I saw, and I couldn't take my eyes off it. See, in my life, I prayed plenty, but not like that. Not with that discipline, that quiet, that consistency. And I thought to myself, Lord, maybe that's what I've been missing. Not the belief I've always believed, but that structure, that rhythm, that commitment. Because these folks, they don't pray when life gets hard. They pray because it's who they are. They don't wait for Sunday morning. They don't wait for a sermon or a song. They just stop wherever they are and say, God, you're still greater than anything I'm facing. And I tell you, that's powerful. When you see a man bowing in the dirt while the world around him keeps moving, you realize he's the one who's truly free. Now, I ain't gonna lie, I got emotional watching it. I ain't Muslim, but I felt something. It was like the silence itself had a heartbeat. And I said to myself, Tony Robbins, all your life you've been running from moment to moment, show to show, trying to fix this, chase that. But when was the last time you just stopped? That's what hit me hardest. These brothers, they pause for God 5 times a day. Imagine that. While we out here saying, man, I don't even have time to breathe. They're saying, no, I'm going to make time for the one who gave me breath. That's why when they walk out after prayer, you see peace on their faces. They ain't rushing. They ain't distracted. They just steady. And I realize that's the fruit of obedience, because when you honor God in private, he gives you peace in public. And let me tell you something. It ain't just the men. I saw little boys praying right beside their fathers. I saw women with their heads covered, whispering verses so softly you could feel the reverence in their voice. It was a whole community of worship, not performance, not ritual for show, just faith. And I thought, this is how you build generations that don't forget who they are. Because a child that grows up watching his daddy bow to God, that's a child that learns humility early. That's a home where gratitude ain't just spoken, it's shown. And I'll be honest, after that day, I couldn't shake the feeling. It followed me home, it followed me on stage, it followed me when I laid down at night. And I started wondering what would happen if every one of us, no matter our faith, just took a few moments each day to stop, to bow, to think. Wouldn't the world be softer? Wouldn't we be kinder? Because when you see Muslims pray, you realize this ain't about religion versus religion. It's about remembrance. It's about humility. It's about never forgetting who you belong to. You know, I kept thinking about that moment. That sound of the Adhan, the call to prayer, just kept ringing in my mind. Now you understand, I've heard music from all over the world. I've been to concerts. I've stood next to gospel choirs that could make the whole building shake. But that call, that voice floating through the air at sunset, it wasn't entertainment, it was invitation. And what it was inviting you to was peace. Man, when that sound hits the air everything else feels small. The traffic, the noise, your worries, all of it just fades. And in that moment, I understood something I never understood before. Muslims don't pray because life is easy. They pray because life is not. And that hit me hard. I've been through some storms. I've lost jobs, lost friends, made mistakes big enough to fill books. And when you've been down there, when you've cried till your chest hurts, you start looking for something real. And that day, watching them pray, I thought, this right here, this is real. Because there was no audience, no applause, no performance. It was just them and God. When I saw those men go into sujood, that position where they placed their foreheads on the ground, I couldn't move. I just stood there. And I remember thinking, that's the highest act of a human being to go that low. You know, in this world, everybody wants to be seen. Everybody wants to stand tall, be famous, be recognized. But what I saw in that moment was the opposite. These folks were saying, Lord, all the success, all the status, all the pride, it don't mean nothing compared to you. And when they got up, I swear to you, they looked lighter, like they left something heavy down there on the floor. I've been praying all my life, but I never thought about praying like that. I never thought about literally putting my head to the ground saying, God, I surrender. But that's what it is. That's what sujood means, surrender. Not the kind that breaks you, the kind that sets you free. See, I've learned that the world teaches us the wrong kind of strength. It tells you strength means you never bend, never bow, never cry, but that's a lie. Real strength, the kind I saw that day, comes from humility, from being brave enough to say, I ain't in control, but I trust the one who is. When I saw those brothers bowing down, I saw courage, because it takes courage to let go, to say, God, I'm yours. And the way they moved all together, no one louder than the other, no one trying to stand out. It reminded me of something I'd forgotten. Faith ain't supposed to be about ego, it's about unity. Every one of them equal in that moment. Rich, poor, black, white, educated, illiterate, it don't matter. You put your head down in front of God and everybody's the same height. That right there is beautiful. And then there was this one moment I'll never forget. Prayer ended, they sat back, heads bowed, whispering quiet words, and then they smiled at each other. Just gentle, peaceful smiles. No rush to get up, no need to check their phones, just peace. And I said to one, brother, man, what's that like? What do you feel when you pray like that? He looked at me and said, Brother Tony, when I put my head on the ground, it's the only time I don't feel small. That hit me right in my chest. He said, when my head's on the floor, I feel closer to heaven than when I'm standing tall. And that's when I realized prayer ain't about posture, it's about proximity. It's about drawing closer to the one who made you. I'll be honest with you. I started thinking about my own life, about how many times I let the world pull me away from God, how many times I let noise drown out gratitude. And I thought, if these people can stop 5 times a day, what's stopping me from stopping once? Just once, to breathe, to thank, to bow in my own way. We spend so much time hustling, man. We say we're grinding for success, but we forget who gave us the ability to grind in the first place. That's what Muslims reminded me of. You pray not because you need something, you pray because you owe thanks for everything you already got. And I swear to you, that changed how I see success. See, I used to think success was about how many commas in your bank account. But success ain't about accumulation, it's about alignment. You can have a mansion and still be empty. You can have a private jet and still feel lost. But when you align your heart with gratitude, when you remember who blessed you, that's when peace walks in. And Muslims, they walk in peace. They even say it every time they meet. Assalamu alaikum, peace be upon you. Every time they greet someone, they bless them with peace. And I thought, now that's a world I want to live in. A world where people start conversations with peace, not argument. Where they gather not to gossip, but to pray. Where faith ain't something you hide, it's something you live. When I left that prayer hall that day, I felt something inside me shift. It wasn't conversion, it was connection. I didn't suddenly change my faith, but I did change my heart, because I realized faith in all its forms is about one thing, remembering God even when the world forgets him. And Muslims, they remember. They remember 5 times a day. And I thought, that's why they're so peaceful. That's why they walk with honor. Because when you remember your creator that often, it's hard to mistreat his creation. That day, I stopped seeing Muslims as different. I started seeing them as devoted. And devotion, that's the kind of light this world's running out of. There's a verse from the Quran I came across later. Indeed, in the remembrance of Allah, do hearts find rest. And man, that's it. That's the whole thing right there. It's not the cars, the houses, the followers, the trophies. That's not rest. That's noise. Real rest comes when your heart remembers who it belongs to. And those Muslims, their hearts remember 5 times a day. I can't help but respect that. You know what else I noticed? After prayer, they don't rush out the door. They sit, they stay in that peace for a minute. Some read, some smile, some just close their eyes and breathe. And I thought, they're not just praying, they're recharging. They plug into peace the way we plug our phones into a wall 5 times a day. They refuel their spirit. And I don't care who you are, if you're a human being, you need that. You need time away from the noise. You need moments where you stop trying to be somebody and just be. Now, I ain't saying I became Muslim that day, but I will say this, that day changed me. It changed how I see devotion. It changed how I see gratitude. It changed how I see stillness. Because somewhere along the way, I realized that faith isn't about what you say, it's about how you show up. And Muslims show up. They show up when it's hard. They show up when they're busy. They show up when the world's against them. Because to them, the world ain't their master, God is. And I'll tell you what really stayed with me, that moment when the imam finished reciting and everyone said, Ameen, that one word echoed through the hall like a wave. And I thought, that's the sound of unity different. Languages, different faces, one heart, one purpose. We keep saying the world needs more love, more peace. Well, maybe what we really need is more remembrance. Maybe what's missing ain't love, it's gratitude. Maybe what's gone wrong ain't people, it's that we forgot who we belong to. And that's what I learned sitting there watching them pray. It wasn't about religion, it was about relationship, a relationship between the creation and the creator. You don't have to be Muslim to see the beauty in that. You just have to be human enough to recognize truth when you see it, because truth, real truth, don't need PR. It don't need a logo. It don't even need to shout. It just sits there, quiet, powerful, patient, waiting for you to listen. And that day, I listened. So when people ask me now, Tony Robbins, what did you see when you watched Muslims pray? I tell them this, I saw peace. I saw discipline. I saw devotion. I saw love. Love so pure, it didn't need words. And maybe the world don't understand it. Maybe they misunderstand Islam or Muslims or prayer itself. But me, I saw people talking to their creator, and that's the most beautiful thing I've ever seen.